All right, sex-linked genes, the X's and Y's of genes. Okay, so sex-linked genes, okay, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes, and one of those pairs are sex chromosomes. they are either X chromosomes or Y chromosomes. So here you see two X chromosomes and two Y chromosomes. Okay, and you should probably remember that we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. These chromosomes not only carry the genes that determine male and female traits, but also those for some other characteristics as well. Genes that are carried by either sex chromosomes X or Y are said to be sex-linked because they are on the sex chromosomes. For males, men normally have an X and a Y chromosome combination. Since only men inherit the Y chromosome, they are the only ones that inherit the Y traits. Okay, so because women do not inherit the Y, they do not receive traits that can come from the Y. Okay, this is the Y right here. As you can see, it looks nothing like a Y, and this kind of looks like an X, but it's not really why they call it an X. Okay, so the X and Y chromosomes right here. Here's our 23 pair of chromosome 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, all the way through. Here's our 23rd pair. Okay, and if this is an X and a Y, remember we just said that would be a man, that'd be a male. Okay, females. Okay, so women have two X chromosomes. So you can see they look very much the same there. Okay, and so in this case, here's a female that has two X chromosomes. Gene, I've never met a female that wasn't a double crosser. Ho ho ho. Okay, it's a bad joke, but it helps you to remember that females are two X's, okay, and males are an XY. Okay. Oops, I forgot to do that one. Okay. X-linked traits. Okay, so both men and women can get X-linked traits because both of them get an X. Okay, so you have the female having two X's and the male having an X as well as a Y. Okay. So sex inheritance patterns for male and female children. Okay, so this is important to get here. Father's sex chromosomes. Okay, so a father passes one X to his daughter. Okay, and mother gets an X, and mother gives her daughter an X. But men actually determine whether the baby is going to be a male or female simply because um, uh, they they give the Y, right? So if they were to give a Y, that would indicate that this individual would be a male. Okay, so it'd be a male child, an XY. Um, the mother gives the X, but the father never gives his X to the son. Okay, he only gives the Y to the son because that's the only way it can determine whether he's male or female. Okay, so X chromosome traits. Men only have one X chromosome. Therefore, traits on that chromosome are always expressed in the male phenotype, even if it's a recessive trait. Okay, so what that means is that if mom gives a recessive trait to her son through the X, it doesn't matter that he only has one X, because you remember we normally need two alleles of the same thing, right? But in this case, because he only has one X, that trait will be shown even though he only has one. Okay, same thing as if dad gives him a trait. Now, there's very few that go on the Y, but there are some. But if there's a recessive trait that's given through dad on the Y, it comes through on this one here, which means that only males can get those traits. Okay. Okay. X-linked traits. So in women, a recessive trait, so a recessive allele on the X chromosome, is often masked by on their phenotype. Okay, so what I mean here is if we have up here we have a female, let's say with normal vision, okay, which is big A, big A. And you'll notice that we have an X and an X here. That's determining that that's a female, right? And then the superscript above is a big A, and that's indicating that this she has, let's say, like I said, good vision. The one just below that, okay, right here, uh, XX again is determining that's a female. The big A little a means that she will have normal vision, but she will carry the recessive trait, right? Meaning that she'll be a carrier of it. She can pass it on. Okay, doesn't she will not have it because she would need two because she has two X's. On the bottom there, you see an XX, so that's a female who has that recessive trait. Let's say it's color blindness. Okay, little a, little a. Okay, so XX, little a. So that she would have the recessive trait. Now remember, with a male would only need one little a on that X to make him colorblind. Um, they may have a dominant normal allele on the other carriers of the X-linked traits, but more rarely have them expressed in their own phenotypes. Right. So that's just what I was just explaining. Okay, and here's a little visual of that. So this one would be a female that was a carrier. Okay, she's got a big A and a little a. Okay, so continuing on with the X-linked traits. In humans, at least 120 genes are known to be X-linked. Genes for hemophilia, red-green color blindness, congenital night blindness, and Duchenne's muscular dystrophy are all examples of uh, X-linked recessive traits. Okay, so hemophilia. I'll just play this as we go. Okay, so an X-linked genetically inherited recessive disease is what hemophilia is. It cannot. This is where there's not a cannot clot. These people cannot clot their blood. Okay, or have a very difficult time doing so. Severe bleeding from very minor cuts. This is mostly in males, right? Again, because a female would need it from both parents. So both of her parents would have to be hemophiliacs in order for her or mom would be, yeah, no, both would have to be in order for her to get it. And so what happens is they lack something called clotting factor, and the platelets in the blood get disrupted, and so what happens is they're not able to clot, and so the volume of blood that is uh, can be more. It's not that they bleed faster; it's that they bleed more, right? Because they're not able to stop, and so usually it takes them to the hospital. That's just the video again there. Okay. This is a video on the royal families of Europe and their struggles with hemophilia and something called porphyria, something that we'll touch on later. Okay, this just shows how that inheritance is carried along. Okay, so if we have a mother that is a carrier of hemophilia, it means she doesn't have hemophilia, but she passes it on, right? And let's say she marries a gentleman with hemophilia. Okay, that means that these are the chances of their children having hemophilia or not. Okay, if she marries a man without hemophilia, these are the chances of their children getting hemophilia. And a mother without, a father with. Okay, you can see again here Dad is the only one that can pass it on to his. He can only pass this to his girls because it's coming from the X chromosome, right? And the X for the boy comes from the mother. The Y goes to the father, so that's not passed on. Okay, and then of course, a father without and a mother without, of course, are not going to have any. However, there are instances where it does pop up. Okay, so here, what I'd like you to do is pause and go to the Amoeba Sisters video and watch it. Okay, you will have finished watching the Amoeba Sisters now. We're going to go on to the next example of an X-linked recessive trait, red-green color blindness. Okay, it is linked to the X chromosome, and this is when someone cannot perceive red and green in the same. Most often afflicts men, okay, or males. I should say boys too, because boys and men, children, can also be colorblind. These are some pictures. Now, I'm not a practitioner that's going to tell you whether you're colorblind or not, but these are just pictures that they use to help people determine whether they are or not. So in the top left, if you can see 71. No, sorry, I think that's 74. Okay, top right, 68. Bottom, 57. Top left, 58. Top right, 18. Bottom left, E. Bottom right, 17. So I usually like doing these just with kids because they're just fun to do. Okay, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. This is characterized by a gradual, irreversible wasting away of skeletal muscle. Now, skeletal muscle is what allows us to move. Okay, there are different types of muscle that our bodies have. We have smooth muscle and skeletal muscle and cardiovascular muscle. And so, but this skeletal muscle is the stuff that allows us to move. And so you can imagine it can be difficult for people with muscular dystrophy to move. An X-linked chromosome, X-linked trait, most often passed on to sons from their mothers, okay, begins to weaken the legs of the boy around age 3 and gets worse every year. There's no cure, and the afflicted usually die or pass away by about the age of 30. Now, this is not always true. I'm not saying this is always the case in every single situation, but it is, but it is often for these young people. And here's a gentleman with muscular dystrophy. Of course, it's showing the trait being passed on, right? Because remember, dad gives the Y, mom gives the X, and this is the one without muscular dystrophy. And this is a child without muscular dystrophy and one with, that are approximately the same age. Okay, Y-linked traits. So now moving on to those things that can only be passed down from father to son. The Y chromosome is small and therefore does not contain many genes. Okay, Y-linked diseases are very rare and only pass from father to son, like I said. Okay, just let this play. So this is hypertrichosis penne. Okay, and this one and right here in particular is when a person grows an excessive amount of hair out of their ears. Okay, and so this is something that's passed on from father to son. This gentleman has it. In the video that's on here right now, you'll notice this young man has quite a bit of hair on his face. This is just hypertrichosis. Okay, and so this is where a person may have it all over their face. And there's not a lot of people in the world that have it. It's very, very rare. He happens to be from Mexico. But he worked in the circus. Him and his brother, they did all kinds of acrobats and stuff like that. and he has a cousin as well that has it. But in any case, I wanted to show you that. Okay. And at another time, we'll talk about these designer babies as well. Okay. CRISPR, Cas9. So, where technology is going with genetics